Hey everybody, it's Miss A and I'm here with a science vocabulary review video. We do have a science vocabulary test for our life science section of 4th grade curriculum scheduled for tomorrow. So I wanted to do a little video, go over some of the words, and have some of the kids show you how they would study for this video. Let me have Ariana, why don't you come over here for me? Ariana, can you tell me why is it important for us to study our science vocabulary terms? Why do you think you need to know that?
So we can memorize them for the test.
All right, so definitely for the test, but can someone tell me outside of the test, Manny, why else? Come on over. Why else might we study? Yes, definitely for the test, knowing the vocabulary, but why else might we need to know our vocabulary?
So when we do accountable talk or we talk to each other, we can know some accountable talk words so we can help.
Absolutely. It's a part of becoming a well-rounded 4th grade science person. You have to know those vocabulary terms, and in order to be successful, we need to know them. So again, the quiz that they're having tomorrow is on life science. In the first section, there are 4 chapters. Chapter 1 is plants, Chapter 2 is animals, Chapter 3 is animals and plants interactions in their communities, and then the 4th one is about recycling and that type of stuff, how we can take care of our land. So the vocabulary terms in Chapter 1, which are located on page 8 in the student book, and the students are also able to use the internet, and I will show you how we go about doing that. So within the chapters, we always start off with our science vocabulary. These are the terms that the children need to know in order to be successful. So this is the first page. We have conifer. A conifer is a seed plant that reproduces with cones. Those are your pine trees. So the cones fall off, the seeds are inside, the cones open, the seeds fall to the ground, and that's how we get new trees. Conifers are only trees. They're not plants. They're not shrubs or anything like that. They're trees. Pollination. Pollination is the movement of pollen from the stamen to a pistil or a male cone to a female cone. So within a flower or a cone, they have basically they have both male and female parts. And depending upon if a bee has taken the pollen from one flower, it would then give it to the female part of another flower. And when the bee touches the flower initially, that's touching the male part. So that's how that works. Fertilization. In fertilization, an egg and a sperm cell come together. So those two items come together in order to make new plants. It's also on page 9, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to get the book underneath there so that you can see it. Page 9, let me try moving this over a little bit. Page 9 has our other vocabulary terms. We have seed dispersal. In seed dispersal, the seeds the seeds of a plant are carried away to a new place. For example, this is a dandelion, and dandelions, we call them wishing flowers. You pick them up, the kids blow on them, blow the seeds around. These stick to animal fur and then get carried to new locations. Some seed dispersal is done through animal waste. An animal will eat a seed, will eat something, and then they will do their waste, and there will be a new location for it to grow, and it already has fertilizer attached. Life cycle. The cycle is all the stages the living thing goes through as it grows and reproduces. So a plant obviously starts off as a seed, goes to a seedling, becomes a young adult, and then reaches maturity. So it's the cycle in which a plant takes from a seed to being able to produce seeds itself. The last word on here is inherited, and these are inherited traits of plants. An inherited characteristic is passed from parents to offspring. So, for example, the leaf shape is an inherited trait. Flower color is an inherited trait. Flower type is an inherited trait. So these are traits that you get from your parents. So like 2 parents come together and you get this type of plant. And usually plants are the same type. So that is Chapter 1's vocabulary. Let's go ahead and go over the next section of vocabulary. We have Chapter 2, which starts for animals. Metamorphosis, larva, pupa, nymph, and heredity. So we're going to talk about heredity in in animals. That is located on page 48 in their science book. So let me go ahead and show that to you. 48 in the science book has metamorphosis is a series of major changes in an animal's body from during its life cycle. Humans don't go through metamorphosis because little humans, babies, look like ball-headed little versions of adults. When they're talking about metamorphosis, it's when there are significant changes that are very evident in an animal. Larva. The larva is a young animal with the body body form different from the adult. So this is, for example, moths, butterflies, where the baby is a caterpillar and then the adult looks something like this. They're extremely different. They look like different types of animals, and that is complete metamorphosis. That's a 4-stage change where you go from an egg to a larva to a pupa, which is this here, to an adult, which is that there. Pupa is the stage in which the body form of a young animal changes from a larva to an adult. So they go in the chrysalis, and their body basically changes in there, and when they emerge or come out, they are a larva. Let me move this over here. I know it's going to be a little wobbly. Here we have our other vocabulary on page 49, which is nymph. The nymph is a stage in which a young animal looks like an adult. This is incomplete metamorphosis. That is a 3-stage change. It's where you go from an egg to a nymph to an adult. The thing about a nymph is a nymph resembles an adult. It looks slightly different than an adult does, but still has many characteristics that are the same. The last one is heredity amongst animals, amongst consumers. Heredity is passing a trait from parents to offspring. So, for example, the types of stripes that this animal has is heredity. The type of teeth that this animal has, they will pass that to its offspring. This little guy, once he gets his teeth will be just like his mommy's and his daddy's. So that's how that works. All right, let's get to our next set of vocabulary words. Our next set of vocabulary words are living things and their environment. Those are located on page 88. That is herbivore, carnivore, omnivore, predator, and prey. These are types of consumers. We are consumers. Living things that do not make their own food are considered consumers. So we need to talk about that vocabulary. So here we have herbivore. An herbivore is an animal that eats plants. For example, a cow. These are animals that only consume vegetation or only consume producers. Producers are things that make their own food. That's why they're called producers. Carnivore, animals that eat other animals to survive. So it's the transfer of energy. Wild cats, you see how they have this leopard eating this antelope? That is a he is a carnivore. Over here, we have omnivore. An omnivore is an animal that eats plants and other animals to survive. A predator is an animal that hunts other animals. And prey are animals that are hunted for food. So let's talk a little bit about these three, herbivore, carnivore, and omnivore. A carnivore is an animal that has sharp teeth, and this is something you need to remember. They have sharp teeth. That's how they tear flesh. And I know it sounds gross, but that's what it is. That's how they tear the flesh off the bones. People have sharp teeth. They call them our canines. So anything that has sharp teeth is meant to eat meat. Herbivores, the plant eaters, have they call them large, flat teeth. They're the teeth that are in the back of our mouths. They are wide, they're flat, and what happens is the food goes in between the two, the other teeth go on top, and they grind it together to break down the food, and that's how we get our nutrients from vegetation. So herbivores only have these type of teeth. So if you were to look into a cow's mouth, there would only be these type of teeth. If you were to look into an alligator's mouth, there would only be teeth that are thin and flat or teeth that are pointy. So those are considered, and then also there are beaks, and there are certain beaks that look like this. those are sharp beaks for ripping flesh. Ducks, which eat vegetation, have flat bills, so that's how they're different. Omnivores, which are what people are, they have the presence of both types of teeth. Predator, we know that's the thing that does the hunting. Prey is what's being hunted. All right, our last set of vocabulary words before we get into how we should be studying is how things interact with our environment. That is on page 120. So let me go ahead and show you that. We've got conserve, recycle, pollution. Oops, turn the page. Yep, conserve, recycle, and pollution. Oh, and invasive organism. So, invasive organism is a plant or animal that does not belong in a place and harms it. So, for example, the kaju is an invasive organism because it can take over the forest. So this is actually a plant that came from Japan. People brought it because they liked the flower. And then that plant grows rampant and basically sucks all the nutrients out of the ground so that other things that are native to the area, they can't survive. For example, weeds in a garden. Our kids know about that. We have to pick the weeds because the weeds are stronger and sturdier and will suck out the nutrients, and then our plants won't be able to get them, and the weeds will survive and our plants will die. Conserve is to use resources in a careful way. For example, only washing a dishwasher full of dishes because it uses the same amount of water whether it's full of dishes or half full of dishes. So that is conserving water. Washing a load of laundry when it's a full load of laundry versus just a few things because the laundry loads have to be a certain level and it'll use that amount of water no matter what. Recycle. Recycle is to use something again, and they give the example of cans. That's a really good recycling tool. They reuse that and make new products. And then pollution. Pollution is a harmful substance that people put into the air, water, and soil. And that is like dropping garbage on the ground type of thing. All right, so we've gone over the different vocabulary terms. Now we're going to talk about some study tips. So some of the study tips that we should do. A really good thing that works for kids are index cards, so index rings. And what you do is on an index ring, you write the word. So let's do invasive organism. And this would be on an index card so we can study it. You would write the definition. It is a non-native, that means it comes from a different land, plant/animal, because it can be both, that takes over an environment and causes negative change. So, for example, it was actually one that was in the news. People bring pythons, they buy pythons, big snakes, as plants. So they take this big snake and they buy it. And then all of a sudden, this snake becomes 18, 19 feet big. They release that snake out into the wild. Because pythons are not native to Florida, they don't have any known predators, and then they have a bunch of little snake babies, and we end up with a bunch of snakes that are then starting to eat dogs and cats and farm animals because they don't have a natural predator. That's an invasive organism because it's causing a negative change. There are certain things that people bring over that make the environment better. That wouldn't be considered an invasive organism. The two things about it, it has to cause a negative change and it has to be non-native. So on my index card, I have an example, I have the definition, and I should be able to study it and know it when I go to do my project. So I'm going to have, or when I go to take my quiz, I'm going to have some of the students come up here and talk about their different ways that they study for the quizzes. Friend here, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Javier, and today I'm going to show you guys how I review for my test. So what I do is look up everything of what I wrote in my notebook about this chapter, about the life cycle chapter.
Okay. And what do you do with that?
and then I just keep looking at it until I remember it for the test.
So in other words, you study it for the test.
Yes.
All right, very good. All right, so I have a new friend here.
Hi, my name's Austin.
All right, Austin, and what do you do to study for your quizzes?
So what Javier says is that he will take his notebook home and study, but I'm thinking I should take the science book home so then I can study except for using the notebook.
All right, so what pages for life science are we using? Because maybe they need to know that.
Page 98.
So we worked on page 98 today, but this unit actually starts on
Page
page
6.
So you see how it's chapter 1. And we are just doing the vocabulary, so it's not the concepts, but we are doing the vocabulary of the different pages of the different chapters. So it goes, here's chapter 2, which is on page what?
46.
Page 46. And then we have chapter 3, which is on page
86.
86. And we also have chapter 4, which we actually haven't studied yet. We haven't done that one, but have we done the vocabulary, guys?
Yes.
Yes, we have. So, and what page is chapter 4 on?
118.
All right, so using your book is another testing strategy. Good job.